Hi everyone, we're Mimicker, here to introduce all kinds of knowledge, even the stuff we didn't know about. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a stack of fascinating sources, unpack the biggest insights, and basically give you a shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today we're embarking on, well, a really deep dive into a literary classic, one that's truly resonated across generations, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. And this isn't just, a beloved novel. It's really an allegorical journey, a quest for self-realization that beautifully weaves together ancient Eastern wisdom with some pretty profound insights from modern Western psychology.
That's right. Yeah, our main source material today is this really rich exploration called Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, a lyrical odyssey of self-realization and philosophical convergence. And we're supplementing that with another insightful piece, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, a lyrical odyssey of self-realization and philosophical synthesis. So together, these sources really help reveal the kind of enduring power of a spiritual quest and, how this one book over decades became this profound guide for countless people just seeking truth amidst all the complexities of life.
Absolutely. So our mission today is really to uncover why. Why does Siddhartha remain so influential? And how does it manage to blend Eastern and Western thought so masterfully? And maybe most importantly, what does its timeless message mean for you, on your own unique journey of self-discovery? So what exactly is this remarkable book about? And yeah, why did it take so long for the world to really latch onto its message? Okay, let's unpack this.
The enduring journey begins Hesse's inspiration and the novel's peculiar path to popularity.
Okay, so at its core, Siddhartha. It's a German novel, right? Published way back in 1922. And it chronicles the spiritual odyssey of this young Brahmin in ancient India who's also named Siddhartha. But it's not the Buddha, importantly.
Right, a different Siddhartha.
Yeah.
And the book's central question isn't just about finding external answers. It goes much deeper. It really digs into the meaning of self-realization, the purpose of life itself, and this pursuit of a truth that, goes beyond just tradition or what you inherit.
Yeah, beyond the comfortable stuff, the established norms. It's about this really intense, personal, internal quest, a search for meaning you can't just be handed or learn by rote.
Exactly. And what's really remarkable, almost strange in literary history, is how it was first received. When Siddhartha first came out in Germany in 1922, the reaction was, well, pretty quiet. Kind of lukewarm, actually. It didn't immediately grab people.
Huh. That's surprising for such a classic now.
It is. But then you fast forward almost 30 years. The English translation finally comes out in 1951. And suddenly it experiences this explosion, this remarkable popularity, especially among young American readers.
Wow, quite the delay.
Huge delay. And it went beyond just being popular. Our sources talk about it becoming a canonical text, almost like, a guide or scripture for the counterculture movements in the 60s and 70s.
That time lag is just fascinating, isn't it? Like the book was waiting for its moment.
Totally. It feels like it was written ahead of its time, waiting for the right cultural soil to really bloom.
A novel from 1922, post-World War I Germany, suddenly speaks volumes to this completely different generation decades later in Cold War America.
It's pretty staggering. And think about this. By its 100th anniversary in 2022, Siddhartha had sold over 4 million copies just in the United States.
4 million. That's incredible for a philosophical novel from the early 20th century.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that gap in reception, it's super significant, both sociologically and from a literary standpoint. Think about the themes. Renouncing materialism, seeking inner peace, nonconformity.
Yeah, those don't exactly scream rebuilding Germany after World War I.
Precisely. Those ideas just didn't mesh with the sensibilities back then. Germany was dealing with immense hardship. People craved stability. The focus was collective, on rebuilding. A story championing, individual spiritual quests outside the norm or rejecting convention. It might have seemed irrelevant, maybe even a bit irresponsible when everyone's just trying to recover from this global trauma.
Right. The collective mindset was probably more towards order, towards practical things, not spiritual wandering.
Exactly. But then jump ahead to post-World War II West, especially during the Cold War. Suddenly, those same themes find incredibly fertile ground. You have this widespread disillusionment after 2 world wars. People, especially young people, are questioning institutions, traditional values, the older generation.
Yeah, you can see that brewing in the 50s and exploding in the 60s. Materialism, conformity.
Right. And the Cold War adds this layer of anxiety, rigid ideologies, the nuclear threat.
Yeah.
It fuels this deep yearning for something else. Alternative values, peace, real spiritual freedom.
And Siddhartha just lands right in the middle of that yearning.
Perfectly. It offered this powerful narrative that spoke directly to that dissatisfaction. It was like a blueprint for finding inner peace and meaning outside the conventional box. So the reception itself, this whole delayed reaction, becomes this amazing case study. It shows how a truly timeless message can just sit there, waiting until the right historical moment activates it.
That makes so much sense. It really needed that cultural shift to find its audience, which naturally brings us to the author himself, Hermann Hesse. It feels clear reading it that Siddhartha wasn't just like a story he cooked up. It feels deeply personal, confessional, even autobiographical. You get that sense of lived experience, right? Like Hesse poured his own inner journey directly into Siddhartha.
Oh, absolutely. Hesse's own life was, well, the crucible for this work. Before World War I, he did quite a bit of traveling, went to Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and those trips left this huge mark on him. They shaped his whole worldview. Our sources say he developed this idealized view of Indian spirituality from those experiences.
Even though he never actually got to mainland India, I read illness stopped him.
That's right. Illness prevented the India trip.
Yeah.
But the exposure he did get to South Asian culture still left this profound imprint. It ignited this lifelong fascination with Eastern thought.
So besides the travel, what else fed into that unique blend of East and West we see in the book? His background.
His background was incredibly rich, yeah. It really set the stage. His grandfather, for instance, was a respected scholar, fluent in Indian languages, and he actively encouraged Hesse to do wide reading of world classics from a young age. So Hesse grew up with this sense of being a world citizen, appreciating spiritual texts from all over.
That's quite a foundation.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then his father also published works about the East. So discussions about Eastern philosophy, spirituality, they were just part of the air in the Hesse household. He was immersed in Hinduism, Buddhism, even Taoism from childhood.
Wow. But it wasn't just Eastern thought, right? The book feels like it has Western ideas woven in too.
Definitely. He connected deeply with certain Western philosophers. Our sources really point to Nietzsche's influence.
Nietzsche, how so?
Particularly Nietzsche's idea of the dual impulses of passion and order. The Dionysian versus the Apollonian. Primal passion against reason and harmony. That tension, that duality, clearly echoes through Siddhartha's journey as he swings between extremes, exploring both sides.
Okay, I can see that. The ascetic versus the sensualist.
Exactly. And then later, Hesse got deeply involved with Jungian analysis, and he was reading Western existentialists. These gave him these powerful psychological frameworks to understand, inner conflict, the search for meaning. It helped him universalize Siddhartha's quest beyond just an Eastern spiritual tale.
So it really was this organic fusion, wasn't it? Eastern spirituality, Western psychology, all flowing out of his own personal search.
Precisely. It wasn't just intellectual, it was lived.
Yeah.
And that authenticity is what makes the themes feel so authentic and profound. It sets the stage for this really deep, timeless exploration of individual enlightenment.
Yeah, knowing Hesse's background really helps you appreciate the extraordinary path Siddhartha takes. It's not exactly conventional.
Siddhartha's Odyssey, the nonlinear quest for truth.
And it really is an extraordinary path. Siddhartha is often called a Bildungsroman, a coming-of-age novel. But it feels like so much more than that. The book meticulously charts the nonlinear life path of its protagonist. And central to it all is this recurring theme, metaphorical death and rebirth. That's framed as the key to his spiritual growth. It's not just growing up, it's radical transformation.
Absolutely. And that nonlinear structure, that's one of the most important philosophical points of the novel. It deliberately challenges our usual Western idea of linear progress, right? Where you just move straight up from A to B towards enlightenment.
Yeah, like climbing a ladder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, it aligns much more with Eastern ideas, like the Buddhist concept of anicca impermanence and the whole idea of cyclical existence. The novel basically suggests that enlightenment isn't some fixed destination you just arrive at. It's a continuous process, always unfolding.
So each death is like shedding an old skin.
Precisely. Shedding an old, incomplete understanding, letting go of a limiting identity. And that process, that death, makes way for a rebirth into a deeper, more integrated state. It's constant evolution, not a final arrival.
Okay, so let's trace that path. Siddhartha starts out privileged, right? He's a Brahmin son, comfortable life, knows all the rituals, his dad's super wise.
Right. Seems like he has it made, spiritually speaking.
But he's not satisfied. He feels this deep inner dissatisfaction. He feels his father's wisdom, the Brahmin teachings. They're great, but they cannot lead him to personal truth or satisfy his soul.
And that feeling, that deep discontent, becomes the inciting incident. It's what pushes him to leave everything behind, his home, his status, everything.
That's a powerful start. It immediately tells you that even the most revered traditions might not hold all the answers for everyone. It makes you think maybe following someone else's path just isn't enough.
Exactly. So his first move, he joins the samanas, the
Okay.
ascetics.
Ah, yes, the extreme.
Totally extreme. Severe self-deprivation. He's pushing his body and mind to the absolute limit, fasting, holding his breath forever, enduring pain, trying to transcend the physical self.
Believing that denying the self will lead to enlightenment.
Right. But even though he gets really good at it, masters all their techniques, it still doesn't work for him. He hits this wall. He realizes it's just accumulating rules and beliefs without bringing true peace. He's skilled, but still feels empty inside.
Another dead end. It's a tough lesson. Just following the rules, even the really hard ones, isn't the same as finding inner truth.
Such an important early lesson. Then comes maybe the biggest encounter. He meets Gautama, the Buddha.
The Buddha, wow.
Yeah. And he sees the Buddha's serenity,
Yeah.
acknowledges the incredible depth of his teachings. He gets it. But in this incredibly bold move, Siddhartha chooses not to follow him. He rejects the Buddha's path for himself.
Even after seeing the enlightened one, why?
Because he becomes convinced deep down that genuine serenity cannot be taught. It has to be experienced directly, forged in your own life, not just learned as doctrine.
That's radical. So that decision really sets him off on his own self-directed quest.
Completely. And that rejection, even of the Buddha, highlights this central theme, the inherently untransmittable nature of true wisdom. The book keeps saying it. Enlightenment cannot be taught. It comes from within. No doctrine is teachable in its deepest sense.
Which is huge. It shifts the whole quest inward. It's not about finding the perfect teacher or memorizing scriptures.
Exactly. It's about personal autonomy, direct experience, listening to your own inner voice. For you, the message is really clear. Understanding comes from living it, not just learning about it.
Okay, so he's renounced Brahmanism, asceticism, even Buddhism for himself. Where does he go next? It seems like he's run out of spiritual options.
He takes this dramatic turn, almost a 180. He decides to dive headfirst into the opposite, the world of the senses, the city.
He goes from extreme denial to, what, indulgence?
Pretty much. He immerses himself in sensual pleasures, wealth, and worldly success. He sheds the ascetic robes, learns about fine clothes, relationships, business. He embraces the material world fully.
Like he's determined to explore the total opposite of his old life.
Exactly. It's a deliberate exploration of the other extreme. This is where we meet Kanala, the courtesan, and Kamaswami, the merchant.
Key figures in this phase.
Absolutely crucial teachers in their own way. Kamala introduces him to love, sensuality, pleasure, human connection. Kamaswami teaches him about business, money, power.
And he gets good at it. Like, successful.
Astonishingly successful. Makes a lot of money, builds a reputation. But these aren't just distractions. They're teaching him vital things about desire, possession, attachment, things his ascetic life completely ignored.
But it doesn't last, does it? This worldly success.
No. Initially, it broadens his perspective,
Yeah.
teaches him things, but ultimately, it leads to profound disillusionment, despair, and inner emptiness.
He gets trapped by it all.
Totally trapped by greed, attachment, the endless cycle of desire. It culminates in this devastating symbolic death of his soul. He feels so lost, so hollow, he actually contemplates suicide.
Wow, his absolute lowest point.
His lowest point, driven there by the very world he tried to master.
That sounds incredibly painful, but you get the sense it was necessary.
Absolutely necessary. He had to go through that immersion, feel the allure and the ultimate emptiness of the material world to truly understand the trappings of attachment. He had to learn firsthand that wealth, pleasure, status, they're fleeting. They can't bring lasting peace. They often just bind you to suffering because they're impermanent. He needed that spiritual depth to truly yearn for something deeper.
Okay, so he's at rock bottom, by the river, contemplating ending it all. What happens?
He hears a sound, the sacred syllable Om.
Oh.
And it's not just a sound, it's like this deep vibration that triggers a profound awakening, a symbolic rebirth. It's the turning point. He starts instinctively seeking balance, rejecting the extremes.
And this is where he meets the ferryman.
Exactly. The serene, wise ferryman Vasudeva. He becomes Siddhartha's ultimate mentor and guide.
But Vasudeva doesn't really teach him directly, does he?
No, that's what's fascinating. He teaches through silent counsel, through his presence, his example. He encourages Siddhartha's deep listening, not just to sounds, but to the river's deeper meaning. And through that quiet observation, the river itself becomes the teacher. a living teacher, a cosmic tutor.
So the river isn't just scenery, it's almost a character itself. What does it represent?
So much. It embodies unity, constant change, eternity, the interconnectedness of all things. It's always flowing, always changing, yet always the same river. It connects everything. It's the ultimate symbol in the book.
And this is where Siddhartha starts to find peace, by listening to the river.
He finds a deep peace, yes. But there's one more crucial, transformative experience. Years later, his son arrives, the child he had with Kamal.
Oh, right. That must bring joy, but also complications.
Immense joy, yes, but also profound suffering. His son eventually rejects him and leaves. And it's this raw pain, unconditional love, attachment, loss that provides the final step. Through accepting this sorrow as part of the whole, he finally reconciles with his past, embraces everything, and achieves true inner peace. He connects with the oneness of the universe. Joy and sorrow are just part of the same flow.
Wow, so that suffering was actually integrating, not emptying like before.
Exactly. It completed the picture.
So looking back, you really see that cyclical pattern, right? These metaphorical deaths and rebirths. Brahmin to samana, samana to sensualist, sensualist to ferryman.
Each stage is a shedding of an old self and the birth of new understanding.
It drives home that it's not about finding one single right answer. It's about constant evolution. Enlightenment as a continuous process of discovery rather than a fixed endpoint.
Precisely. It completely challenges that Western linear ladder model of progress.
Yeah, this nonlinear journey, these cycles, it's more than just plot. It feels like a deep philosophical statement.
It absolutely is. Hesse is showing that real growth isn't just stacking up knowledge or having one big epiphany. It's this intricate, ongoing, cyclical thing. You shed identities, confront limitations, integrate shadows, and reemerge with deeper perspectives.
Which ties back perfectly to those Eastern ideas of impermanence and cycles, and eventually leads him to see time itself differently.
Exactly. He starts to perceive time as an illusion, past, present, future, all interwoven, all simultaneous, like the river itself.
So this whole nonlinear journey isn't just his story, it's a profound blend of philosophies, East and West.
That's where Hesse's genius really shines. The synthesis is incredible.
A confluence of wisdom East meets West in Siddhartha's philosophy.
Okay, let's dive into that confluence of wisdom. The novel is obviously set in ancient India, the birthplace of Hinduism and Buddhism. That's the foundation.
Absolutely. Siddhartha starts as a Brahmin son, which puts him right in the Hindu tradition. So concepts like Brahman, the ultimate reality, and Atman, the individual soul, being identical to that universal self, are central. His whole quest, really, is about realizing that unity and that sacred syllable Om he hears.
Yeah, the turning point sound.
That's pure Hinduism. It symbolizes oneness, wholeness, unity, the sound of creation. It connects directly to the river, which also embodies that unity and constant flow.
And the parallels to the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, are impossible to miss. Hesse seems to be echoing that story.
Deliberately, yes. The novel really engages with key Buddhist ideas. You see echoes of the Four Noble Truths about suffering and its cause, desire. Siddhartha experiences suffering in all its forms. And concepts like anicca, impermanence, and anatta, no self, they're crucial for him, realizing that clinging to transient things, even identities, causes suffering because everything changes.
Right, the idea that attachment leads to suffering because nothing lasts.
Exactly. And the Buddha's middle way, avoiding the extremes of indulgence and asceticism, that's basically what Siddhartha finds by the river after trying both extremes.
But as you said, he doesn't just become a Buddhist follower. Hesse shows a conscious opposition, too.
Right. While honoring the Buddha's wisdom, the novel strongly insists that each person has to find his own path. It's about self-discovery, not just following dogma.
That emphasis on personal experience, rejecting external doctrine even from the Buddha, it feels so relevant. Why is that message still so potent for you today? In a world overflowing with advice and gurus, is there something you just have to live to get?
That's a great question, and it leads us right into the Western side of the synthesis, particularly Jungian psychology. Hesse's own engagement with Jung gives us this powerful lens. Siddhartha's journey, you can absolutely read it as a process of individuation.
Individuation. Well, that's Jung's term for becoming whole, right? Integrating the conscious and unconscious.
Exactly. Becoming a complete, integrated individual, distinct from the crowd. Not just conforming, but becoming who you're truly meant to be. Warts and all.
So how do Jung's archetypes show up in the novel? Can you give some examples?
Sure. Think about Siddhartha ditching his Brahmin identity at the start. That's like shedding the persona, the social mask, to find his authentic self.
Okay, makes sense.
I feel.
What about his friend Govinda?
Govinda often acts as the shadow. Not necessarily evil, but representing the unconscious parts Siddhartha needs to integrate or move beyond conformity, seeking external validation, the tendency to follow. Govinda's dullness isn't about smarts, it's his inability to see beyond teachings, even when wisdom is right there in his friend.
He keeps looking for the next teacher.
Always. Then Kamala, the courtesan. She's a powerful representation of the anima.
The feminine principle within the male psyche.
Right. Love, intuition, sensuality. She's not just temptation. She helps him integrate these vital, emotional, and sensual parts. She teaches him about connection, desire, the body's wisdom essential for holistic growth.
So she's a necessary teacher, too.
Absolutely. And finally, Vasudeva, the ferryman. He's the classic wise old man archetype, the spiritual guide.
But he guides through presence, not preaching.
Exactly. He guides by example, by presence, by helping Siddhartha listen to nature, to the river. He embodies wisdom rather than just talking about it.
That Jungian map adds such a fascinating layer. And you mentioned existentialism, too. How does that fit in?
Deeply. Siddhartha's constant curiosity, his refusal to be satisfied with any prescribed path, that resonates strongly with the existentialist focus on individual freedom. Existentialism stresses forging your own truth through lived experience because there's no pre-given meaning. His journey perfectly mirrors that existential dilemma, seeking meaning in a world that doesn't just hand it to you. His constant striving, his willingness to abandon certainty, is fundamentally existential.
It really is Hesse's genius, then, isn't it? How he weaves all this together, Eastern religions, Jungian psychology, Western individualism, into this unique, cohesive vision.
It's masterful, and the core message that emerges is revolutionary. True understanding doesn't come just from the intellect or doctrine or teachers. It has to arise from direct, lived experience. And that inner journey involves integrating both the intellectual, spiritual Geist and the material, sensual nature. It leads to this holistic grasp of unity.
So it's not about choosing spirit or senses, but finding wisdom and experiencing both. Not being just a monk or just a merchant, but integrating the lessons of both.
Precisely. That's the unity of opposites. His journey through the extremes, deprivation, and indulgence shows that true wisdom needs both sides of the coin, and that unity is perfectly symbolized by the river, connecting the terrestrial and the eternal, embodying the flow of life and death, joy and sorrow, showing they're all part of one unified whole.
Such a rich blend of ideas. And it's not just philosophical theory. Hesse brings it alive through his writing style, too.
The art of the narrative symbols and characterization.
Yeah, let's talk about that writing style. It's always described as so poetic, reflective, having this real lyrical effect. It reads almost like music sometimes.
It really does, and that's intentional. Our sources point to specific techniques, heavy use of commas, flowing sentences, interconnected descriptions. It creates this continuous, almost hypnotic rhythm. It perfectly mirrors the flow of consciousness, the inner dialogues.
So the style supports the themes.
Absolutely. Philosophical ideas are seamlessly interwoven into the narrative, not just dumped on you. It creates this magical, engaging experience where the language itself echoes the themes of fluidity, interconnectedness, non-duality. It invites you into a more meditative state while reading.
And the whole book works as this elegant allegory or fable novel, right? Simple plot on the surface, but layers underneath.
Exactly. Deceptively simple. Beneath that surface are these deep philosophical and psychological layers. It actively invites you, the reader, to dig deeper, to uncover the universal message. It's telling many stories at once.
It's a masterclass in symbolic storytelling. Siddhartha's journey becomes a kind of universal map for anyone on that quest.
Right. Every character, event, setting carries symbolic weight. It engages you in uncovering those layers, making the discovery of wisdom feel like a shared journey.
Speaking of symbols, we have to come back to the river. It's called the most potent and pivotal symbol. It feels like more than just water. How can one symbol mean so much for you?
It's incredibly multifaceted. First, it represents evolution. Siddhartha's flow through different life stages, always moving. Second, it embodies the unity of all things, vitality and flux, the eternal flow of life, every drop unique, but all part of the same river. Everything changes, yet the essence remains.
And most importantly, it's his teacher, his cosmic tutor.
Yes, not with words, but through listening. Guided by Vasudeva, Siddhartha listens to the river's myriad voices, water, life, echoes of experience, and through that, he learns the nature of time. He perceives the simultaneity of past, present, and future, like seeing the whole river at once.
All moments existing together, interconnected.
Exactly. It helps him grasp the illusion of separation, leading to an understanding of timelessness. For you, the river suggests that profound truth isn't always found through striving, but maybe through quiet observation, presence, just being in the flow.
Incredible depth in one symbol. And the characters, too, as you said, have that archetypal significance. They're facets of the self.
Right. Even in an allegory, they're not flat symbols. Through that Jungian lens, they're critical facilitators of Siddhartha's psychological individuation.
Okay, let's revisit them quickly through that lens. Siddhartha himself.
He's the dynamic character, obviously. His development is the story. He embodies that universal inner conflict and the desire for self-discovery. His constant transformation, shedding selves, reinventing, that reflects the universality of the story. It's a journey we all undertake somehow.
And Govinda, the loyal friend.
The external counterpart, the shadow, symbolizing dullness, inactivity, blind conformity. He's always seeking teachers, attached to doctrine, highlighting Siddhartha's need to transcend that reliance. His dullness is his inability to see the wisdom right in front of him in Siddhartha, because he's still looking for rules.
Got it. Kamala.
Represents worldly, sensual pleasure, but more deeply, the anima. She helps him integrate the feminine principle, love, empathy, intuition, body wisdom, vital for holistic growth. She shows that wholeness includes, not denies, these aspects.
And Kamaswami, the merchant.
Embodies the material world, success, but also greed and attachment. He exposes Siddhartha to the trappings and emptiness of materialism, teaching the suffering that comes from clinging to transient things, a necessary contrast.
And finally, Vasudeva.
The ferryman, the wise old man, the mentor who teaches through presence, example, embodiment. He guides Siddhartha to listen, emphasizing passivity, acceptance, interconnectedness, the opposite of dogmatic teaching. He simply is.
It's amazing how these interactions show that self-discovery isn't solitary. It needs engagement with all these diverse human experiences, these archetypal forces.
Exactly. And this powerful mix of story, character, and theme led to this huge cultural impact that's still felt today.
Siddhartha's footprint, cultural legacy, and modern relevance.
Right. Let's circle back to that remarkable cultural impact, muted in Germany initially, but then it explodes in the US after 51, becomes a canonical text, even a manifesto or Bible for the 60s and 70s counterculture. What was the connection?
The appeal was direct. It hit all the right notes for restless wanderers, alienated youth, political anarchists. Think about the themes again, being a social dropout, the rejection of authority, communion with nature, nonconformity. It perfectly mirrored the counterculture vibe.
And the paradoxical philosophy, criticizing learned spirituality but emphasizing individualism.
That resonated deeply. Young people felt alienated from post-war society, its norms. Siddhartha validated their search for alternatives, gave them a framework for their own quests. The wanderers saw their journeys mirrored. The alienated found validation for questioning everything.
But here's that key paradox again. How does a book that rejects learning and champions individualism become a collective manifesto for a movement? Seems contradictory.
It's fascinating, right? The idea that true knowledge cannot be taught must be discovered firsthand. That fit perfectly with the counterculture's individualism, experimenting, living their own truths, rejecting institutions.
Okay, so it validated the individual path, but how did it become a collective thing?
Because sharing the book, discussing it, drawing inspiration from Siddhartha's journey, it created this unique collective spiritual experience of reading Hesse. It built camaraderie among these radical individualists. It let them feel part of a group, the self-willed ones, the Eigensinnigen, as Hesse called them, a collective spirit born from individual autonomy. They were united by their shared defiance and their commitment to finding themselves uniquely. The book gave them a shared language.
That makes sense. United in their individuality. And remarkably, Siddhartha is still hugely popular today, still relevant. Why does it endure?
Because its core message, self-discovery and enlightenment, is timeless. It keeps resonating in our increasingly materialistic, maybe digitally overloaded world. People still feel that spiritual emptiness, that disconnect. The book urges you to look inward for true happiness, not just chase external validation. Its themes, identity, the search for wisdom, the unity behind diversity are perpetually relevant.
Has it had a more concrete impact on, say, modern spirituality or how people think today, even if they haven't read it?
Oh, definitely. It played a big role in popularizing concepts now common in modern spirituality. Mindfulness, compassion, and ethical life approach non-dogmatically. Its emphasis on personal experience over rigid adherence to rules inspires many seeking alternatives to traditional religion or values. It offers this adaptable, inclusive, experiential blueprint for finding meaning without needing a specific doctrine.
So it encourages you to forge your own path, trusting that the journey itself holds the wisdom.
Exactly. A profound and lasting legacy. Outro.
Wow. So we've really journeyed with Siddhartha, haven't we? From his privileged start through those wild extremes of asceticism and sensual life, right to that profound wisdom found by the river. And we've seen how Hermann Hesse just masterfully wove together ancient Eastern spirituality with modern Western psychology, created something truly unique and lasting.
Yeah, and what really stands out is Siddhartha's powerful message. Enlightenment isn't something you just get handed down. It's not in a doctrine, not found in any single external teacher. It's this deeply personal, often nonlinear, totally experiential process. Those symbolic deaths and rebirths require direct engagement, integrating all parts of life.
The good and the bad, the spiritual and the worldly.
Exactly. And the river, that central symbol, just keeps reminding us of the unity, the impermanence, the interconnectedness of everything in a world that's somehow at once ever-changing and eternally one.
So this deep dive really reinforces that the search for wisdom isn't about following someone else's map, is it? It's about bravely forging your own path, learning to really listen to that inner voice.
Yeah.
And finding harmony in that complex, sometimes paradoxical dance of life's opposites. Maybe something for you to think about. What really stands out to you from Siddhartha's journey? And how might your own path of self-discovery also be this constant process, shedding old selves, maybe tentatively at first, then more bravely embracing new understandings as you go? Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell.